everyone. We are here with part two of us interviewing Bibiana at Princeton, a host of Princeton Cannabis Review. This is Why Will No One Date These Guys with Naomi Guy and
Joel Guy.
Awesome. That was really creepy and weird whisper.
Love it. Thanks, Naomi.
Yeah, of course, anytime. It was kind of like a serial killer vibe. So like Joel mentioned, Bibi, we are celebrating 2020 Too Much Fun. How have you been treating yourself this year? What are some fun things that you've gotten up to so far?
So far, I have only smoked top shelf weed this year.
Awesome.
So
great.
it's like a lot of variety. I'm just, whatever. I'm going to have what I want. And what else have I been doing for fun? I'm going to have to think about that.
Okay, we'll come back to you.
Bibi, for our listeners, and by that I mean me, because I'm uninformed in these areas, what's the difference between like a lower grade weed and a top shelf one? Is it a smoother high, a better experience, different flavors?
So a higher THC level, a lot of terpenes, a lot of flavor, breaks up nicely, smells great, burns correctly.
No. Naomi, what have you been up to?
I've been burning some really nice candles. Bibi for my birthday got me this like really nice, I think it was like guava tangerine or something. It smells so good. I burn it like once a week, and it's like I've been trying to save it because it just smells like heaven. Like if you imagine what heaven smells like and then add more like good smelling things, that's what it smells like. What else have I been doing? I've been trying to not drink alcohol. It's been very hard. Last weekend I went out with my friend and got a bathtub full of gin. It was expensive, but it was good. It was like a mini bathtub. It was like maybe like a foot long. And then it was like,
that's too much gin.
It looked like a mini bathtub, but it was like gin and cucumber water. And it was just so good. And it came with little mini rubber duckies. It was so cute. I like went bar hopping. We went to a bunch of like cute little speakeasies in downtown Phoenix. So it was like a lot of fun. I had the best nachos I've ever had in my life last weekend. Everybody who lives in Phoenix, go to Pigtails, order the nachos. They're so good. Joel, how about you?
Sorry, I'm still reflecting on you saying I've been trying not to drink alcohol, followed by, so then we ordered a bathtub worth of gin.
Told you it wasn't working.
Yeah. I've been trying to do more cooking. I've been doing a bit more Korean food. I really like the flavors of Korean food. Unfortunately, I've had an upset stomach for the last couple of weeks, so not too many spicy flavors are on my menu at the moment. But then I also have been trying to get back into like better baking. It was Lauren's birthday last weekend, and so I made her a triple coconut cake with a coconut buttercream frosting and a butterscotch white chocolate ganache. And
it was good.
I believe she said it was the best cake she's ever tasted, which is, I guess, what a significant other should probably say, but like I'll take it as a compliment.
Oh my gosh, that sounds divine.
I had flashbacks to a time in college. I think this was freshman year, when I was whipping up a chocolate ganache in the kitchen. I don't remember why. I might have had some extra cream or something. I don't think there was a purpose. It was just chocolate ganache. And one guy on our floor came in and he was super inebriated. And he's like, "Can I try some?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." And he takes some and he goes, "Oh my God, that's the best thing I've ever tasted." And I'm feeling like kind of, good about myself. And one of my friends comes over and goes, "Well, Joel, you realize he says that about everything he eats when he's drunk." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, no.
So Bibi, welcome back. This is a completely different week. This definitely isn't a follow-up to the recording we just made. We're glad you could schedule two different points in your schedule to have us. But yeah, we mentioned this in the first part, and I want to go into a little more detail about this. You run a podcast called the Princeton Cannabis Review, and you're trying to normalize weed culture and discuss like the proper use of drugs and why people use drugs. And I think there's still a lot of misconceptions around drug use in our culture. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the misconceptions people have and then some of the reasons you yourself use it.
So I think there's a big misconception around cannabis Um, I think over the years it was thought of as a gateway drug or something like that. And I can definitely say it is not a gateway drug. I feel that it is a medicine that actually helps you maintain your endocannabinoid system. So in the 60s, Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, a scientist in Israel, he found this out about this system. And basically what it is it helps maintain our homeostasis. And we have receptors in our body that either let a signal go through or it doesn't. And THC and CBD and the things found in the marijuana plant help maintain our homeostasis. So I've been smoking weed, and then I find out, oh, okay, great. There's this research that's been suppressed and is now coming out that says, oh, this is all great, And I think the other week it said something about COVID and diabetes, So there's just a lot of research out there that is still happening, and needs to come forward. And for me, it's I feel that we just in the 1940s it was part of the pharmacopoeia, so it's been demonized, and it has been a healing plant for longer than it has been demonized. And I just want to normalize weed culture, for everybody, actually, but especially people my generation, because we tend to be stuck in our ways sometimes, and if we can open up our minds, then it can trickle down. And I think that younger generations, there's not that much prejudice against it, or stigmatism of, or maybe there is, I'm not sure, but I think for my generation it's more black and white.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is accurate. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to have you on, because whether people like it or not, drug use is becoming a lot more normalized. And in the context of relationships, it can be a deal breaker for a lot of people, whether you do or don't smoke. Just a couple of stats that I was able to find about drug use from 2020. Among people aged 12 or older in 2020, 21.4% of people had used illicit drugs in the prior year. And that's in the United States. That's 59.3 million people. So in 2020, marijuana was the most commonly used illicit drug, with 17.9% of people aged 12 or older. I like how they're using 12 as the baseline, using it in the last year. The percentage was highest among young adults aged 18 to 25, 34.5% of them, or 11.6 million people, followed by adults aged 26 or older, 16.3% of them, or 35.5 million people. Then by adolescents aged 12 to 17. Oh, okay, that might be it. 10.1%, or 2.5 million people. So there is unfortunately a high percentage of people who use opioids. Among people aged 12 or older in 2020, 3.4% misused opioids, heroin, or prescription pain relievers in the past year. Among the 9.5 million people who misused them, 9.3 million people misused prescription pain relievers, compared to the approximately 900,000 who used heroin. And then in 2020, 2.6% of people aged 12 or older, or 7.1 million people, used hallucinogens in the past year. The percentage among young adults aged 18 to 25 was 2.4 million people, and higher than the percentage among adolescents or adults aged 26 or older. So drug use is here. I don't think it's going away anytime soon, especially if we consider that the younger generation seem to be a little more interested / open to it. And so I think it's important then to discuss, is that a problem, and how you can balance drug use and happy, successful relationships.
So I can speak to my experience and just say that I managed to get here to 60, and I started smoking in college, so it was a little bit later. But I think that there's all these different options for people to check out, and kids are going to be influenced. Oh, am I going to smoke weed? Am I going to drink alcohol? Those are probably the two things that they're, or if it's worse, then they have opioids and all that other stuff, because frankly, opioids will kill you. It's I don't want to go off on that, but I think that it's here. Everything is here, right? And it's about choices. So if you have a strong community and you're able to make different choices, that's great. But if if you don't have any supervision, or you know there's no structure in your community, then bad things can happen. So does that mean drugs are bad or whatever? I mean, I think that children should not be doing anything.
You don't think 12-year-olds should be able to smoke marijuana?
Fuck no. This is for adults, 18 and over, and then the thing is too, is if you're 18, you have all this energy, you better be using it for school and going your side job and all that other stuff. And if you smoke a joint, big fucking deal. But it's like all about capability and proportions and all this other stuff. And then if you have mental health, then you should be addressing your mental health issues. I think that, my family was breaking up and I was stoned, and I would pass out and the kids would come over from high school and, probably smoked my weed and whatever. But if I had been drinking and I had a bunch of kids over at my house drunk, that would have been bad, but I they probably came over and smoked weed and ate all the pizza that I would order. But it's you know what I mean? And then I'm like thinking, oh my God, you guys smoke my weed. And I find this out like decades later. But it's like, it's like capacity. People have capacity in their life for certain things, and drugs help you, whether they're prescription or cannabis, and I think that the drugs that make you addicted, alcohol, all that stuff, nobody really talks about that, so nobody's saying that, oh yeah, it's really good for you to drink, a bottle of booze every day. Nobody's saying that, because it isn't good. So I guess my point here is that it's about choices and making your life work. 12-year-olds need to not be thinking about weed and alcohol and anything else. They need to be thinking about school,
Minecraft and Fortnite and all the games they
being
play.
A kid playing outside.
Well,
no,
sorry.
I was just going to say, Naomi, I think that's a completely fair perspective. Go on.
Oh, I was just going to say that, like, I, for instance, would say that there's a lot of drug use when I was in high school. And they started smoking weed around like 12 or 13. And I thought that was crazy. But I also know people that like lost their virginity around 12 or 13. So like people are making adult decisions at younger ages. And like I've mentioned so many times, education is the best way to make sure that everyone's being safe in both those areas. Do you have any like wise things to say, Bibi, about 12-year-olds smoking weed other than don't do it? Do you have any like education for them?
Well, maybe not just 12-year-olds. In general, what would you say is a safe approach to using marijuana or drugs in general?
Well, do it with your siblings.
Naomi?
Especially if you have a good relationship with your siblings, and have your first joint be with your big sister, or your big brother, and then and a lot of times it's these family occasions, there's a lot of comedy skits about it, where you get your first experience from your bad uncle or crazy uncle or something. But it's I guess so the question, tell me the question again. I got to
What are some general rules for safe consumption of drugs?
So I think it's a sibling thing, actually. Like, I feel sorry for kids nowadays, because I feel like there's just so much more at stake, I just feel like there's just so much more at stake. And if you're going to do something, and just try it, I would say just try it if you're with a sibling, because to make it actively part of your life is going to put you in a community where is that going to serve you? And I think that when you're younger, it's important to have your own intuition and your own sense of direction that is not influenced by your friends too much. Like, oh, I'm not going to go to that college because my best friend's not going there. So it's the same thing with like, if you're too into your community where you get your weed, then you might stop yourself, or because it's a relationship that might become too important. And the only important thing that should be the most important thing always in your life is yourself and where you are going. So that's what I would say to a young person.
I think that's good advice. Having that structure, having that like support network. So, if you do smoke weed and have like a crazy reaction, whether allergic or just like mentally, you have someone who you trust who can support you. I can definitely see it being a problem if, you're introduced to weed by your friends and then you find out that, your dealer is the one source of weed in your life, and you make bad decisions in order to continue getting a supply. It's probably better if you're getting your weed from someone you trust and someone who's not going to take advantage of that, kind of power dynamic.
Yeah, that's the power dynamic. I don't miss that at all. Like, now with dispensaries, you just go in there and you just try and be clear about what you want. But the whole, like, I mean, I had a few bad drug dealers where it's like the whole power play, and it's like, fuck you. Why did it take 3 hours to get weed? It was crazy.
Well, I can tell this story now that I'm 21, but
it's still a crime, Naomi.
It's still a crime. Yeah, I know. I smoked my first bowl when I was 16, and it was with my boyfriend at the time. And it was him and a friend that we shared, and then another person, and then another friend that we shared. So it was like 5 people all together. And we were on this golf course. And yeah, I know, such a weird place to do it. We were on this golf course, and I get really paranoid when smoking weed, and my friend that was there also had the same reaction. So I didn't know that at the time, that I got paranoid, because obviously I'd never smoked weed before. So we're on this golf course, and I swear to you, I saw aliens that night. I like don't even know what I was smoking, but it was so bad. And my other friend that got paranoid thought that we were going to get caught because all of us were underage. All of us were doing something illegal, obviously. So my friend's like looking around, like very shifty, like what's going on? There's security guards around this golf course. No one was there. So at one point he just sees a flashlight or something that like somebody else had like turned on, and he just takes off, and it caused everybody else who was so high at the time to take off as well. So everybody's running in different directions. And we're just sprinting in different directions through this golf course. And that was when I realized that weed was not for me.
No, baby, no weed for you.
Hey, how do we know Naomi didn't actually discover aliens?
Yeah.
Just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah. How do we know that there weren't actually aliens in Tempe, Arizona in 2016?
Yeah, it's a fair point. I hadn't even considered that. Yeah, I think to Naomi's story, like drug use isn't going to be for everyone, and I think that's important to reiterate. Some people find it okay, and other people do not react well to it, and there's, I think, no shame there. It's important to sort of identify your personal experiences and figure out that, whether or not certain substances give you joy or give you like fear. And I think you should probably identify those substances and not make repeat mistakes if that's the case.
Well, to Bibi's point, I would definitely say that situation would have been a lot better if I was around people that I like really, really trusted. And I feel like because there were so many people there that I didn't trust, I had a bad experience. So it might have just been that like I need to smoke a joint with Bibi. Obviously, that's what I need to do.
No, she wants to get arrested with her big brother. That's it. Yeah. Bibi, would you say, did you have more or less difficulty dating when you made it clear that smoking marijuana was like a non-negotiable part of your life? Or was it what you were talking about in part one, where you said it was actually really easy? Everyone was smoking weed constantly. And I found it, easier to, get in bed with someone when there was drug use involved.
Yeah, I think everybody was smoking weed that I was with, and it was very prevalent. It was very prevalent.
Mm-hmm. So to that extent, I'm wondering if that's reflective of the social circles you were hanging out with, or more of like a greater social trend. Because if it was a greater social trend, maybe the percentage of people doing drugs has actually declined over time.
So in the 80s, I think there was just a lot of drugs. There was, in different circles and different kind of drugs. But so I think it was just prevalent, especially in my age group, um, and then and then now I'm not quite sure, but back then it was very prevalent.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I do want to shift topics slightly from drug use to another part of your life. And we don't have to dig too much into this, but I'm interested in discussing your experiences with the divorce. We did kind of discuss this briefly in part one, but I'm kind of wondering, what would you say were the reasons that sparked the divorce? And then what was your reaction afterwards? How did that affect kind of your dating life and your perception of relationships? Because it seems like a very impactful thing on your life.
Yeah, it was definitely a turning point. I think when you're part of a huge unit, Jimmy had a lot of family, and I loved his big family. And then you're like no longer part of this big family. It was a big it was shocking. It was shocking to my whole system, because I felt that it was this big conspiracy, and he had actually been with this person for about a year in Hong Kong. She was also married. So it was, and had worked for the company. So it was like, okay, great. So in Hong Kong, the women, the way they get power is they have to either have money or sleep their way to power. So basically, this is what this woman did. She slept with my husband, and then they're traveling around and all this stuff, and going places where I was supposed to be going with my husband, and having this life, and what I thought was very idyllic and perfect, and like, why wouldn't he want this? And he had already changed his mind and decided he wanted to be with this woman. I was like the last one to get the memo. So it was really shocking. And then what was shocking was my ex mother-in-law, or she was my mother-in-law at the time. She said, don't get a divorce because you want to keep health insurance. I'm like thinking, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker.
He'll need health insurance when I'm done with him.
I had so much emotion and outrage. It was like I would wake up screaming at 4 a.m. in the morning, because I was like going, fuck, this is not a nightmare. This is your life. And now I'm like thinking back, like a lot of people get divorced, but I was really shocked. I was super shocked. And then I would, my poor children, they were like down the hall. I would wake their asses up. I feel so sorry for my children, but in a lot of ways, but especially then. And I would smoke weed to calm down. And then at 6 a.m., I would go talk to people at the Pete's Coffee down the street. And then I finally got some Zoloft for 6 months so I could like be even. But then I got off of that, and I just continued smoking weed. But it was like this 6-year divorce of me trying to chase this motherfucker all over the world, and then trying to find where the money was. and I couldn't find the fucking money because nobody, just remember, the attorney wants to make his house payment. Everybody wants to make your house payment until you can no longer make your house payment. Then they will take your house away. So weed, thank God, got me through everything. It got me through all of that. And and then what it also did was that it's like you go through this experience and then you go, okay, who was there? Who was the witness? Who was there? Who could fucking handle it? And there were only there was a handful of people. One person's passed, Randy Williams. He was there for that 6-year, Miss Smosh life. And then a couple of girlfriends who were able to handle me and all my emotion. But then at the end of the day, you're left with your choices.
Mm.
And I feel like I needed to make better choices in hindsight, but everybody can say that. And as far as weed is concerned, it saved me. It saved Jimmy, because at one point I did see him, with Maisie, and they were drinking juice or something, and I was driving a car. I could have run them over because I was angry enough, and I'm really glad I didn't. I just went home and smoked some more weed and cried, but
So what you're saying is weed saves lives.
Weed saves lives, baby. Saved my life, saved Jimmy's life, probably saved the boy's life.
Mm-hmm.
Should I put that on a bumper sticker? I'll probably get my ass pulled over. Weed saves lives.
No, put it on a bumper sticker, but you can only drive your car in California. The cops will drive by and they'll see your bumper sticker and they'll be like, "Oh, she's just a hippie."
No, I'll put a picture of the family. That's whose lives I saved. Oh. So, so I think, unfortunately, I haven't really recovered from that part of my life. I think when financially your life blows up and you haven't worked for 15 years, it's difficult to get back into the field and make the kind of money to support your life and to, have it look anything like it did before, or, it's just difficult. So.
Have you tried dating since the divorce? Has that been something that was ever on the table, or is that not something you feel comfortable with?
Well, it's so crazy. Like in the very beginning, I'm going, oh God, I'm going to try and find a man, save my life. And I was like, oh God, that was so stupid, right? I'm like, well, nobody's going to come save you. Nobody's going to do that. And now I think, it's totally unreasonable to ask. So, I was praying. I thought prayer was like a big way to get what you needed. So I prayed every day for a man to come into my life, for a boyfriend. And I really wanted a husband. And so this gentleman who lives in my very small town asked me to go for a walk. And so we went walking around the hills for a couple of weeks. And then we ended up being boyfriend and girlfriend for I think maybe 2 years. And what I noticed was that he had a son he lived with, and he would never spend the night with me, even though we lived a block away, right?
Mm.
And I didn't I was like, it doesn't, it's like, okay, so we have sex and then I go home or whatever, or the other way, and it was just that is not normal. If you want somebody into you, they are spooning with you the whole night long. It's not like, oh, let's go travel somewhere for that experience. Hell no, I'm right down the street, right? And then a really sad thing happened. His son killed himself. And I think that, and I helped him find him. I knew where he was. It's like we're all connected, whatever. It was really sad. but he ended up moving away, and we were probably going to break up before his son passed, because I was like thinking, man, this guy's he's not going to ask me to marry him. He's not going to. He's not interested. He's not having those conversations. And so why am I here? So after that, I didn't really date anybody because I'm just busy taking care of myself. But
go off, sis. I said, go off, take care of yourself.
I know. I was like, I'm just taking care of myself and just, figuring out what it is that I want. And I also feel too, if I wouldn't have started the Princeton Cannabis Review if I had been in a relationship with somebody, because it took a lot of my own self-acceptance and self-awareness to say, I'm going to go out on the internet and say who I am. And then, be with somebody and go, oh, do you like me? Do you like me? Do you like me? And get all that approval. I couldn't have done both. I don't think I could have done both. So now I'm out there, and now I get the catfishers. But that's another story. I'm not dating right now, though. No.
So you're not.
I'm not sure what that would look like.
You're not actively seeking relationships right now.
No, I'm not. But I definitely think it's about attraction. So you got to be in front of me, not behind a computer screen.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that to further your point, I think that's something that I found within the last year is if you're going to have passion projects like a podcast, or you're going to pursue situations or projects that you want to be a part of, you should have someone that you're dating that will fully support you, and you shouldn't have someone that they'll push you to do more. You shouldn't be with someone that is sitting there and is unsure about what your future will look like.
That's a lot of boxes to check off, girl. I love it.
Well, it's also this interesting situation where I think you could argue that having someone else in your life would make your life simpler, to the extent that that's another person you can split rent with, someone who can do the dishes, do the laundry, whatever. It's cutting out a lot of, it's cutting out a lot of things that you would have to do as an individual by, sort of combining energies and synergizing in that regard. But to your point, because you have to do all that stuff by yourself, it's difficult to find the time and the energy to go out and pursue somebody. So there are objective benefits to, having that presence in your life. But at the same time, because you don't, it's very difficult. You need a boyfriend to go find a boyfriend, if that makes any sense.
I think the best part the best part that I miss about a relationship is having somebody really care about how my day is going, if I got all my little needs met, you see that in a relationship, and that is just so sweet. That is so sweet. So maybe one day soon I'll have that again.
Let me take some notes. Boys, ask your significant other how their day went. I mean, to that point, is there anything else, any other advice you might give to people who are, pursuing someone? Any advice you'd give to people who are in relationships about how they should conduct themselves, besides not cheating with people in Hong Kong?
Oh yeah, please. Can you just, stay single fucking focused. Please, please, please. And mind that one person. Just, I think that's what it is. It's find out what you can find out about that person, and keep on digging for more, because people are really interesting, and people have had a lot of experiences they can't tell you, or they can't, express to you until there's time and space for that, and, kind of just do your homework, and then enjoy the fruits.
I think that's good advice. To a certain extent, I would say the people I find the most compelling are those that, to an extent, I know the least about. Like once I've discovered, the dark secrets of people's past, or, some hidden piece of, a job they used to have or an experience they went through, to a certain extent, I do find them a little less compelling. I'm like, oh, I've solved this person. I've, fit all the puzzle pieces together and I have a complete perspective of their character. And I think that potentially is part of the appeal of dating is you have these complete strangers who you have to kind of like figure out and like make sense of, why is it they do the things they do? Why is it that they, act in certain ways? Why is it they're compelled to do X, Y, and Z? And I don't think I don't think it's right to say that once you've figured out a person, you're no longer going to be attracted to them. But I do think there's a certain level of mystery and allure, which really enhances relationships when you're still fitting all the puzzle pieces together.
I agree. And just that whole play of energy, like, how do you feel when you're with that person? Are you always feeling good, and that's that, and how to keep that energy up. It's like a dance. And I think that's part of the longevity part, but it's the discovery is really fun and hanging out.
Yeah. And maybe this is the far too many business school luncheons I went to as an ASU student talking the whole like hustle culture of, all the entrepreneurship programs at ASU. But I do think there's something to the idea that as an individual, regardless of age, you should strive to constantly be improving yourself in some degree. And I don't mean like, working out or fitness, but like reading, exploring, having fun with like hobbies and activities and doing stuff out in public and groups and, really expanding who you are as a person and constantly kind of redeveloping as your interests change over times. And I think potentially one reason that relationships stagnate is because people fall into the same patterns and don't do anything to improve themselves. And that's not to say that I think people need to be constantly learning violin and, picking up French and, I don't know, base jumping on their days off. It's just to say, like, again, once you solve someone, their appeal slightly goes down to an extent. And I think you can really keep that spark going by, coming up with new hobbies and doing new things that interest you. And it's not to say do it because you need to be a better person. Do it because you care about it. Do it because like you're interested in that thing genuinely. And I think, the romance kind of follows from it.
I agree, because I think what it is it's like an elevated form of play. You can continue to play with that person, and if you're just ruminating or going over your, like, people my age, it's like sometimes I go, oh my God, I'm old. I think I'm old. And I'm like going, oh, I must be old because I've been talking to people my age and they're old fuckers. They're just dissatisfied with life, talking about just like, oh my God, they have stopped learning. They've stopped playing. They've stopped interacting with life. And they're just very dissatisfied. And I'm like going, oh, okay, this isn't, I need to leave as soon as I can, basically, because if you're not engaging with the person that's most important to you, then your life isn't that exciting. It's not moving. You're just getting ready to die. Well, like, that's basically the way it feels. And then the relationship dies, or people, want a new life, so they get somebody new.
Yeah, I almost wonder if that's kind of the appeal of like cult conspiracy theories in recent years. Because like if you're on Facebook all the time and you stumble across this idea that the Democrats all like drink the blood of children and that, Donald Trump is going to save us from the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and there's, secret child sex rings operating out of the basement of pizza parlors. That's like interesting, right? Like it might not seem right intuitively, but like that's exciting and different. And you can pretend you're part of something great if you start to, perpetuate these conspiracies and you start to, traffic in them and come up with new elaborate hypotheses that fit into all of that. And so I think, especially for older people in the rut that you're talking about, there's an appeal to being a part of this bigger movement. There's this appeal to being part of something great, even if it's just sitting on their computer and, reposting content. And I think that's potentially frightening, where like, rather than doing something that builds yourself up, you're like, out there trying to ruin Western civilization. I don't know.
Well, it's like people, they go, okay, what's my legacy? They don't have they don't, or they say, I don't have a legacy. I just want to wreak some havoc because I've had a shitty life and I want to have somebody else have a shitty life, or I can only move. I don't want to move. I can move to the kitchen, to the bathroom, to my computer. What can I do? How much excitement can I give? So it's an addiction to, porn. It's an addiction to, like you said, conspiracy theories or feeling part of, something that, not everybody. I think this is what's really hard to understand after being on the planet for so long, is that not everybody has good intentions. Not everybody was raised to have the discernment of right action. What's bad action? What's right action? What benefits people? What hurts people? And that there's something wrong. So there's the moral compass, it's taught, and not everybody has been in class, unfortunately. So it's sad. It's very sad. It's very sad when you find out people don't want to do good.
Totally switching gears here. I would like to, sorry, that was just worst timing to do that. That was a really good point. But I would like to get to this, since this does kind of interact with both of our podcast subjects. What do you think is an appropriate role for like drugs and relationships? I think that we have kind of like touched around this subject, but we haven't gotten like a clear answer from you, since you are the expert in this situation. I've had obviously situations in my life where drugs have played a huge role in relationships, and that was not healthy. So what is your perspective on that?
Yeah, we dated a Molly dealer for a while.
No, I did not.
So I think that if you have a habit, so I have a habit of smoking weed. I need to be with somebody who probably smokes weed or has weed in his life or something like that. Because I've made the decision that, weed helps me in my life, and I'm using it as medicine, because if I smoked it this long, it's medicine. And so if you're dating and you're with somebody, like, I think that would be like one of the first things I would ask if you are into cannabis, like, do you smoke? Because if somebody does not smoke, doesn't matter how hot they are and whatever, it's not really going to end well. So then just notice that, okay, I'm just in it for this minute, and then take advantage of that. And then do not try and change that person. That's all.
When you say you would prefer that they smoke, is this something you want to do with them recreationally, like just sitting in the living room smoking? Or would it be more of like, I'm going to do my thing, smoking a bowl, you're going to smoke your, cigarette half an hour later, we'll work around our personal schedules?
So I prefer to smoke with, but it's like I prefer to smoke with, but if somebody doesn't smoke as much as I do, or smokes less or something like that, as long as they smoke something, because I think what happens when people don't use it at all, then it can be something that they might want to change about me because it's different than them down the road. So I think that because it's a big part of my life, and then just because I'm an advocate, it would have to be a big part of their life too, because it's almost like my passion now. So for work, I'm a recruiter for the architecture and design industry, but that's not what my passion is. So my passion is cannabis. So they have to be passionate about weed too, and maybe want to learn. So maybe I'm asking a lot more from somebody right now. But if I was just going to date somebody and not figure out to have a long-term relationship with them, then they would still need to smoke, because
Right.
I mean, it's a big part, And
I think that makes sense that as you age, your standards go up and the number of things you expect from people probably goes up too. Because you've probably had, a series of relationships where you figured out what works and doesn't work for you. You've identified, the needs in terms of financial resources or like emotional resources you need from individuals in a relationship. You know how well you do by yourself versus in a relationship. So there needs to be an objective benefit to pairing up with someone. And so, yeah, I think it makes complete sense that, the number of things on your checklist would only expand over time if you continue dating as you aged. When you're younger, you probably want someone who tells you you're pretty and interesting. I think if you're dating someone in college, you probably want someone who maybe has some walking around money so you can go and do stuff. And then in your 30s, you probably want someone who has life and career goals that roughly correspond to like what you're aiming for. But yeah, I can only imagine that list getting longer and longer over time until it's a Harry Potter length novel of things that people need to meet in order to puzzle piece fit their way into your life.
That's true.
I don't know, Naomi, you're younger than both of us and offer a slightly different perspective. Would you agree with that assessment, or would you say that like there's less things that you expect from people now that you've been in multiple relationships?
Well, I would say that I would agree with Bibi in the sense that if you have something that you're super passionate about, it's better to have someone that you're dating that relates to you about it.
Mm-hmm.
I would say like the closest thing that that I've experienced is I don't like smoke. We talked about this in the last episode, but like in past relationships, that's been a big part of people's lives and just drug use in general. And I never understood that. So that was a huge disconnect that it was really hard to get past. Now I would say that like the easiest thing that I can relate to on is maybe video games. I don't play video games, and people that I date are very into video games, and so I kind of have to step into that and ask them, oh, did you win your game? Or I don't know anything about video games, I'm going to be honest with you, but you kind of have to ask leading questions and try to understand that, because that is something they're passionate about. I would say that personally, that my standards have gone up because of the relationships that I've had. So I think that standards they start high or they go up as time goes on. And I would say that Bibi, for instance, I don't think you're asking a lot to have a relationship with someone that relates to you on that subject. Like that isn't a high standard. That's just something that you are interested in. So that's just my perspective on it.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this last episode as well. There's been a kind of democratization of like knowledge that people have concerning like skeevy individuals and how they approach dating, and people who have ill intent. And now more and more people understand the tactics they utilize and how to avoid predatory individuals. And so to a certain extent, I would say over time in any given population, the base level of standards people have is only going to rise, because the understanding, the collective understanding of, what's acceptable in a relationship is only going to go up and up over time, assuming you have like the free flow of information and, discourse on media. There are a lot of things I'm sure back in the day that were like completely acceptable that people put up with, whether it be men taking all the women's assets and being like the one who controlled them. I think it wasn't until like the 1990s. We're only going
to put an IRA in my name.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until like the 1990s that I think it was required that like women be able to get credit cards, same as their spouses in the United States. There's the horrifying reality that like marital rape was just acceptable in the United States until the early 2000s. There's things that people considered normal because they don't know any better. And it's only with like discussion and discourse that can change.
Goodness. Thanks for having these discussions. It's important. Very
Joel,
important.
I think that this is a good place to ask our final question to our wonderful guest, Bibi. Would you like to ask it?
I don't have the list in front of me. Why don't you go
okay.
ahead?
I can ask it. So, Bibi, Your house and everything you own is catching fire. After
Oh
saving your
no.
loved ones and pets, you have time to safely make a final dash to save one item. What would it be and why?
So, like, if it was smart Bibi, it would be like all those papers and stuff, whatever, or you're supposed to save, right? No, I didn't. I still don't want to save. I don't. Still, it's not going to be that one. What I realized, it's this tapestry that my mother made when she was pregnant with my big sister, and it's about 9 feet by about 6 feet.
Oh my God.
And I thought, I'd run in there and I'd jump up on the table and I'd rip that off the wall and I'd run out of the house. And then I thought, well, why would you do that, Bibi? And what I realized is that she had a vivid imagination. And this tapestry is a depiction of Venice. And for those of you who haven't been on the internet and don't know about Venice, it's a city submerged in water. So there's all these buildings and people and boats. And I've looked at this tapestry all my life. And what I love about it is when I met my big brother, her first child, when I was about 40, he told me that this came out of her imagination. And she had designed this tapestry and had made it. So I wanted to take a piece of her legacy and honor my imagination, her imagination, and bring that with me. That is what I would find of value.
I think that's a beautiful answer.
Thanks.
I was hoping for something more amusing, like a big Ziploc baggie full of weed, but that's a good answer.
Oh God, weed's everywhere. That's the best thing about weed. Weed is everywhere. You can have no weed and you will find it on the street. I found some in Australia. It was great weed. So it's true. Weed takes care of you. If you're in touch with weed, weed will find you.
He was going to go to space and on the first moon colony, plant some seeds.
That's where we'll find the big baggie.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
They're like, oh, this space module, it's overweight by several pounds. Where's all that extra weight coming from?
Top shelf.
Incredible. Well, Bibi, we really do appreciate you coming on our podcast. I think you've offered some genuinely great words of wisdom and knowledge about your personal experiences growing up and dating and smoking weed. And I think that's going to be very helpful and interesting for our audience.
Well, thank you, Joel and Naomi. I love you guys dearly. I had a great time this morning recording with you and sharing my perspective on cannabis and dating and just really proud of you all for putting this information out, because if a lot of people don't know what they don't know. And I feel like you guys, I'm so proud of you for empowering women, because I feel like a lot of women are going to be empowered by all the information that you're putting out, and it's going to help us. So thank you.
Hey, don't get us wrong. We're empowering men to be less shitty too.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Joel just does this podcast to get the ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you should. It's well deserved. Nice women coming your way.
I got 15 t-shirts that say, "This is what a feminist looks like."
This is what?
A feminist looks like.
Awesome.
Oh, I'm being sarcastic. I do this for reasons other than picking up women. I want
Bibi really believed in you there. You shouldn't do that to her. She was so excited.
Want me to crush her at the end of all of this. Bibi, for those who, for whatever reason, didn't listen to episode 1, where can people find you online?
www Princeton Cannabis Review, and then I'm also on Instagram, Princeton Cannabis Review.
And I'm sure
Awesome,
if you
awesome.
were to ask her, DM her any questions about weed, she will happily reply to you. So go put that out there.
Thank you. I would very be happy to be in touch with anyone who wants to talk about weed with me. Thank you.
Good to hear. Well, I think that's all we have for today. Thank you once more, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
We have many thanks for the use of our theme music, which is the song Drop by Ketsa. You can find more of their music online at ketsa.uk. You can also find Date These Guys online on Twitter and Instagram at Date These Guys, or visit our website at datetheseguys.org. If you have questions you'd like us to discuss on the podcast or marriage proposals for either of us, shoot us an email at datetheseguys@gmail.com.